begin this Sunday morning with further fallout of Hillary Clinton's made-up story of Trump-Russia collusion after last week's new and stunning revelations that Hillary signed off on one of her advisors' plans to smear President Trump's reputation during the 2016 election with false claims of Russian collusion, all to distract voters from her own scandal of destroying emails and her email server in her home. The email revelations exposed after being hidden in burn bags in a secret room at the FBI, part of the John Durham classified annex. The existence of that Durham annex first revealed exclusively right here last weekend by CIA Director John Ratcliffe.
What that intelligence shows, Maria, is that part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to.
In an email purportedly sent from Open Society Senior Vice President Leonard Bernardo on July 25th, 2016, then Clinton campaign foreign policy advisor Julianne Smith devised a plan connecting President Trump with Vladimir Putin, and the FBI will, quote, put more oil into the fire to supply to the media in the absence of any evidence, unquote. Just as CIA Director Ratcliffe told us last Sunday and has been telling us on this program for now 10 years. 2 days later, a second email, again, purportedly from Bernardo, says Clinton signed off on the plan about tying Trump to Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections to, quote, distract people from her own missing emails, especially if the affair goes to the Olympic level, unquote. Durham later wrote in the annex that his best assessment is that those two emails, allegedly sent by Bernardo, were, quote, ultimately a composite of several emails that were obtained through Russian intelligence hacking of the United States. The FBI said the information was likely authentic. The CIA determined the intelligence was not a product of Russia fabrication. Now, former CIA Director John Brennan and former DNI James Clapper are working overtime, trying to backpedal out of their years of publicly attacking President Trump. They wrote in the New York Times this week that the accusation that they engaged in conspiracy to undermine President Trump's first term is, quote, patently false, unquote. Here's former House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes with me here last weekend on Brennan telling Obama about Hillary's plan to tie Trump to Russia, but failing to tell Nunes during his years-long investigation into the Russia collusion hoax. Watch.
So what Brennan never did during that time period, okay, is tell us. He never came to me as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee in 2016 and said what he told Obama. Through all the investigations in 17 and 18 and 19 and 20, he never said that, oh, yeah, I had told Obama and these people about the Clinton, the Steele dossier and all of that.
That Clinton was coming out with a new story that Trump colluded with Russia.
Right, that happened in August of 16. He had a lot to say, but one of the things he didn't have to say was that he knew that this was a Clinton hoax.
And throughout it all of the dirty tricks exposed this week, President Trump continued to execute his agenda, including more critical trade deals announced this week, while also warning Russia their days are numbered before the U.S. responds to the failure to stop the war on Ukraine. Joining me now with more on the agenda and the efforts to undermine President Trump in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller. Stephen, it's great to have you this morning. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And I want to start with the Russia collusion story because I know you lived it as well. They also tried to spy on you. They wanted your emails, subpoenaed you as they left people really with their lives changed. Your reaction to what was released this week?
The Russia collusion hoax against President Trump remains the single greatest hoax and the greatest assault on our democracy in the history of this country. There's no comparison, there's no parallel to anything else. It was a coup. and I'm using that term literally. It was a coup to overthrow a democratically elected government, a coup carried out by the intelligence apparatus of this country, by the deep state, by Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party. The new information that has been revealed by the Director of National Intelligence and by the FBI eliminates any scintilla of doubt about the intention, the premeditation, the planning and orchestration of this conspiracy. It meets all of the criminal elements of a seditious conspiracy against the United States. It meets the criminal elements of an insurrection. It meets the criminal elements of a conspiracy against the government and the criminal elements of a conspiracy to deprive citizens of their civil rights under color of law. One egregious felony after another. And because it is a conspiracy, as demonstrated by the forethought of realizing and documenting that they understood that this was fake from the beginning, meeting the mens rea standard in law. Because of that, because it is a conspiracy, every single individual actor is now part of that conspiracy. So that includes Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Hillary and Schiff and everybody else who knowingly and willfully perpetrated this plot, this coup, this conspiracy, this scheme against President Trump and the government of the United States. And now is the time and the hour and the moment for accountability so that we can reclaim this democracy, Maria.
Well, do you believe we will actually get accountability? We've been demanding accountability now for a decade. Our audience is well aware that this is the biggest political scandal we have ever seen, and an effort to undermine and take down a duly elected president. But now we want to see the tricksters face the consequences. Will they?
I have complete confidence in the Department of Justice to follow these facts, to follow this new, further avalanche of evidence, and to take all the necessary legal steps to ensure that the wrongdoers, the coup plotters, the schemers, and the insurrectionists are held fully accountable under the laws and Constitution of these United States. Yes, Maria, I believe that.
Now, last weekend, John Ratcliffe, a CIA director who is a former prosecutor, former DNI, told us that that the statute of limitations, the 5-year statute, does not apply when it comes to conspiracy. And he says the conspiracy is ongoing because they still won't admit it. The conspiracy is still happening. So what is your take on what Ratcliffe told us last week?
Oh, he's completely right. So several of the statutes I mentioned, we have not even come close to eclipsing the statute of limitations. But more than that, it is an ongoing and continuing conspiracy. It continued through the entirety of President Trump's first term. It continued through the entirety of President Biden's term in office. And it continues to this day. There are still deep state coup plotters who are trying to conceal and hide this information on behalf of the people they are protecting. There are still staffers in Democrat offices who know the full truth, who are concealing that truth. So all of this behavior, all of this conduct collectively means the conspiracy hasn't ended, is ongoing. Comey in particular has throughout the years engaged in conduct and lies, public statements, and testimony in front of Congress. False testimony whose sole purpose was to perpetuate and continue the conspiracy. So I have every hope and expectation that the Department of Justice, under the leadership of our courageous Attorney General, will follow these facts and follow the evidence and deliver justice. Because if we have a country where we can continue to have FBI careerists and CIA careerists, deep staters who will fabricate and doctor evidence, who will create and produce fake material, fabricated material, phony information to try to go after their political enemies up to and including the president. If we continue to create the impression and the reality that there is not a criminal, a severe criminal penalty for such conduct, it will never stop, it will never desist. It will keep on going forever. And we will continue to have a country that is sabotaged endlessly by the production of fake documents, fake material, fake plots against democratically elected officials. We can't have that. There must be consequences.
Well, I mean, it's just extraordinary to me that the mainstream media has completely ignored this story. And they obviously were complicit from day one, being the quote-unquote useful idiots of the cabal to spread this nonsense across the world. But the Russia collusion lie had such an incredible impact. People went to jail. They should not have. People were raided. They raided Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's home, looking for these documents, according to Devin Nunes.
Correct. By the way, that's a great point. The Mar-a-Lago raid was a perpetuation and continuation of this same conspiracy. They went in search and in hopes of trying to recover the documents that would implicate their own criminal conduct.
That's right.
The entire raid was a perpetuation of this same criminal scheme, as you mentioned. And so many innocent people suffered irreparable harm. Paul Manafort was left to rot in a prison cell because of this ridiculous investigation, this witch hunt that is carried out. How many homes were raided? How many documents were taken? Emails were taken against the innocent, against people whose only crime was working for President Trump.
Right.
And everything that has happened, including, I would argue, all of the interference in 2024 that took place, and in 2020 that took place, all the dirty tricks that kept taking place against President Trump were all part of a desire to keep him from getting back into the Oval Office to uncover and expose and share with the world the full truth of what happened, as we are seeing now, Maria.
They also set up General Mike Flynn. Let's not forget about that. There were so many implications of this lie, but even more so, let's talk about the impact to the American people. Because while Adam Schiff was going on the Sunday political shows, and he was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee for a time, saying there's collusion in plain sight. When you have that kind of a title, you're the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and you say there's collusion in plain sight, we believe you. You've got the job. You must have seen more than we've seen. So to outwardly lie like that because you have that title. Same thing with former director of CIA, John Brennan. He's got that title. We believe him because he says it. So all of this, when they were running around, Russia, 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 how much did they miss? How much did they leave on the cutting room floor? For example, right now, we are dependent on China for 90% of the underlying components for our prescription drugs. We saw Russia invade Ukraine, more territory. We saw Iran continue to build up nuclear weaponry. All of the things that actually matter to the American people were not the focus.
The cost,
for 10 years.
Okay, let's go.
The cost is incalculable of having the entire security apparatus of this country focusing on the hoax instead of the real national security threats facing America.
Right.
Lie after lie after lie that was told to the American people, preventing us from actually solving our relationship with Russia, preventing us from actually developing security and independence from all of our adversaries around the world, dealing with these big geopolitical questions. Instead, we were consumed endlessly by the same hoax, the same lie. And the charlatans that engage in this conduct are beneath contempt. They are without dignity, and they are beyond redemption. What they have done, you can't even measure the harm that it inflicted.
Stephen, real quick before you go, take us to today, because President Trump has these deadlines underway. He is telling Russia, you've got days that are numbered. August 8th is the deadline to stop this war in Ukraine. What is he going to do in terms of sanctions? Can he actually stop this war? And what about China and a trade deal?
Well, so first of all, we've never been in a stronger place economically than we are right now. Not only because the president passed the largest ever tax cut and relief in American history, not only because he's opened up American energy to a degree never seen before, eliminated all of the wasteful regulations, streamlining our economy, but because he has used trade to strengthen instead of weaken America. The trade deal with the EU, the trade deal with Japan, the trade deal with Korea, the tariff revenue that is reducing our deficit. So now we're in a position of economic strength to deal with Russia and to deal with this war that he inherited from Joe Biden, who is responsible for this travesty. The whole Democrat Party is responsible for this travesty in Europe. So what he said very clearly is that it is not acceptable for India to continue financing this war by purchasing the oil from Russia. People will be shocked to learn that India is basically tied with China in purchasing Russian oil. That's an
Wow.
astonishing fact. India portrays itself as being one of our closest friends in the world, but
Welcome to the first weekend of August.